are going to be so crucial because it does really come down to the wire in terms of the different interactions. And there's the lead that we were just discussing, Ben. The Tinkerton next to the Mega Gengar versus some, let's say, a lead that is very well prepped going into this. Basculegion Male and the King Gambit.
How much damage do you want to do to this Gengar turn one? Yes. I would like to do a lot of damage to that. And I think this is a great start off for Bruno, really putting the pressure onto it. You do really want to stop this Gengar from setting up a Perisong, and if you don't stop it from setting up a Perisong, then you want to at least make Davide trade for that Perisong going up. So that's the overarching story of this game, is going to be, can the Perisong go up? Can Davide support this Gengar, keep the trap on the field? Because once it's up, once the Gengar's in a good spot, then it's very, very difficult to break.
Yeah, and the only thing that can will be the Basculegion due to its Ghost typing, if Bruno wants to do so in the subsequent turns. Fake out into the King Gambit, making sure it cannot move. Shadow Ball actually being opted in, bringing the Basculegion down to its Focus Sash, clearly being a key point in making sure the Basculegion is kept under wraps. As, sure, special defense drop doesn't matter. The question is, which target does it go for? Liquidation into the Tinkerton will be able to guarantee that 2-shot. So now the question is, where do we go from here?
This is a really nice way for Bruno to try and break down Davide's side of the board. You've got two options. You either try to break down the Gengar, but on that turn one, it could have protected itself. So attacking down into the Pokemon that can't protect itself as easily wants to go for the fake out into the King Gambit to stop that Kowtow cleave. Means that the getting the damage on the support pieces is the route that Bruno wants to take through this game. And I think now, given that the Tinkerton is so low, it's the time to switch it out. Kamoa looking very good in this spot.
It really is, as Basculegion, due to the interaction, like we said, the Ghost typing, allowing it to leave the field and not get trapped in, brings the Sneasler for the fake-out pressure. Gengar, on the other hand, opting to go for the Protect, as Bruno is going to take advantage of that, goes for the Swords Dance, which puts him in a good spot, but Como on the other side of the field doesn't feel as good.
Well, with Gengar protecting on that last turn, now the fake out and Kowtow cleave looks really, really good into the Gengar. Davide is really looking for those opportunities for a Kowtow cleave or a Sucker Punch to come out so that they can be disabled for next turn. Davide sees this coming and then wants to switch out the Gengar into Incineroar. Doesn't matter if the King Gambit gets any more boosts, it's already powerful enough.
Exactly. Now at +3 of its attack stages. Sneasler actually having the White Herb procced right now, so it's going to be able to outspeed basically everything, including the Mega Gengar in subsequent turns. But Como very receptive of the situation, goes for the Protect, knowing that the Incineroar is going to be available for fake out in the following turn. Kowtow cleave, the +3 deals too much damage onto the Incineroar, but Davide has got the spot he wants. He's got fake out online, whilst Bruno does not.
And this is the pivot from Perisong team into a team that just wants to play whatever Pokemon is in front of them. And so now we're pivoting from the Gengar sending the Perisong into let's boost up the Komodo, put some damage down on the board. Perisong is still a good option once you've knocked out two Pokemon. And certainly without a Choppleberry, this King Gambit is looking very, very scared from the Aura Sphere from this Komodo.
Yeah, and for good reason. Hence why we actually see the Floette making itself on the field. It wants to be able to threaten it in the subsequent turn, but Davide matching that momentum with the board state, having the Mega Gengar now on the field at the right time, meaning both Floette and King Gambit will be locked in. They have no way out from the Shadow Tag.
Yeah, that's a really, really nice switch in for Davide, and this is just textbook of being able to use that Shadow Tag to its full effect. This is where Mega Gengar is at its strongest. Coming in on the board state that you find favorable, maybe it's not turn 1, maybe it's turn 3 or 4 as you're seeing here, and then after that you take too much, your opponent takes too much damage, and then you can sort of perish the finishings off. So Davide doing a really good job, but there is still that potential for a sucker punch. That sucker punch stops the sludge bomb into the Floette, and so the Floette can get the damage down onto the Komodo, and the Floette could even, in its mega form, be faster than the Komodo to boot.
It's going to come close because the Floette is at modest stat alignment versus the Komodo modest as well. It does truly come down, like you said, Ben, to the training in speed investment. Mega Gengar has the protect, the dazzling gleam, does move now first, and actually picks up the raw KO onto the Komo. Oh, my lordy, too much damage. Davide not really liking that from an initial point of view. The fact that the King Gambit is essentially still on the field and having to see the interaction of the Mega Floette outspeeding is so crucial. And this may now force Davide's hand in order to look for a strategy via Perish, since clearly the Komodo mode is out of the window in this game.
Well, this is a challenging thing in that situation. Davide is really having to be on the back foot because of the sucker punch pressure, but then having to find a way to get the sludge bomb down onto the Floette that cannot switch. And Tinkaton is a really good way of doing that, because not only does it offer the fake out this turn, but also allows for the encore disable shenanigans to go down into the King Gambit to stop it from being such a threat, and then to be able to act from there. And Komodo may be the worthy sacrifice in that case.
And that's why this core of duo works so well. You see the sucker punch failing, of course, because you've got disable and encore on the line. I'm not going to be surprised to see the Tinkaton trying to focus down.
Oh, it is faster.
And it does confirm that the King Gambit got absolutely ignored. Floette locked in, not only with a shadow tag, encore disable on the line. It is doing zilch and taking damage for it.
Yeah, massive turn there. The Tinkaton training is so big. Floette being naturally faster than Tinkaton, but clearly Tinkaton being trained to be as fast as possible so that it can take advantage of that Floette. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the same sort of sequencing happening against this King Gambit. And once both Pokemon are neutralized, they cannot attack for a few turns on Bruno's side of the field, then Davide can go on the offensive. The question is whether to call that protect or not.
Gonna have to find out. I feel like Bruno's sort of forced in a scenario where he can't help but make the obvious play. Perish Son now on the field from Gengar. Encore trying to make sure the King Gambit, like we said, does get locked in. And in this scenario, Floette, sure, the struggle can now damage a ghost type with the normal base typing, but it's going to be taking so much damage for it. And like we said, Ben, it really feels like this two Pokemon, there's no way that Bruno can get out of this scenario with them still on the field.
And it's not like, even so, it's not like Davide can even go on the offensive this turn just yet. The Encore Disable has to kind of come again, just in case the Sucker Punch is locked into. There it is coming out. So it is going to be the Perish Song actually to stop the... to stop any damage from the Sucker Punch, and now the Encore locks the King Gambit into the Sucker Punch. You can disable it next turn, and well, Floette's kind of doing the work for Davide in this spot, using Struggle, ending its Encore, and dropping down that Perish Song.
Yeah, and I think it's something to note. Perish Son being chosen there rather than Disable might be Davide wanting to try to get Disable the following turn in order to take advantage of the additional amount of turns remaining for that effect.
Definitely, and even if Bruno is able to get away from the pin, which there's very limited options to do so. This is exactly what Davide is wanting to set up in this board state. Even if there was, there's not actually a lot of time to do so. Like, you can say, well, okay, we'll be here for 5 or 6 turns, but there's when you lose all the PP, then you can actually change moves away from the Encore Disable, and you can kind of get around that situation a little bit easier. But not only the fact that Floette is now at half HP from the recall from Struggle, but also because that Perish Timer is counting down, you've only got a couple of turns. The question I've got actually is how Davide is going to position in the late game. What pieces in the back is he going to try to use to finish off the last 2 Pokemon for Bruno?
And in order to do that, you need to make a conscious decision of which Pokemon is going to go down to perish, because there's one final turn remaining right now, and you've only got one switch in the back from Davide's side. So, are you going to sack the Mega Gengar, or is it going to be the Tinkaton? And do you think that you've got a way to get around the Sneasler and the Basculegion in the back with the remaining two?
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Has to be Gengar switching out.
Yeah, it's got to be Gengar switching out. I think that's pretty obvious. I think like the question I've got is like whether or not Bruno's got enough. We know what two Pokemon are in the back. We know that the Incineroar is going to switch in, take a little bit of damage, but actually have Fake Out on the board. But now, after the Perish Song comes into effect, Floette and King Gambit get taken down. Is the Fake Out from Sneasler plus the Basculegion going for a last respect enough? That's a lot of damage.
Just a bit.
Wow. Fair play, Floette.
That's +4 for you at that point.
+4 King Gambit.
Yeah,
of course.
that's
King Gambit. Well, there we go. These two Pokemon getting knocked out. It was almost Gengar and its lonesome, and actually, at the point where it's Gengar and its lonesome, actually, maybe it beats the Sneasler one-on-one, but it's getting a little bit closer to comfort than you'd like.
Yeah, especially because Diaclaw has that secondary effect of potentially picking up the status conditions.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And that's the only way that Bruno can force that. So let's not sort of joke around. That was a very important survival from that Incineroar in order to allow Davide a few more resources available to essentially dispatch of Bruno's Pokemon, because Gengar has to get rid of the Basculegion now, right?
And also there's Aqua Jet on this Basculegion, right? So that's going to knock out the Incineroar this turn, and then to be able to allow this sort of Sneasler Diaclaw versus the Gengar endgame. There's no opportunity. Actually, it would be quite nice for Bruno if there's an opportunity to get the White Herb activated, but there's no such joy. There's just a Fake Out going into the Incineroar, taking that little bit of damage. The Gengar is forced for Davide to fire up a Shadow Ball into the Basculegion. That's the only Pokemon that's threatening a one-hit knockout on the Gengar this turn. But now, because of that Protect, Bruno actually putting themselves in a great position to get maybe enough Aqua Jet damage to allow the Diaclaw to win the one-on-one.
Yeah, and that's what he has to target, as well as a status condition in order to make things a bit more easier. Aqua Jet bringing the Gengar down to 82. Diaclaw actually outspeeding naturally versus this Gengar. Might be quite crucial, no jokes aside, dealing thereabouts 20-ish hit points. So it's going to have to be the next 3 turns, if not 4, dependent on rolls, for it to be able to get around this.
It's only going to be 2 Shadow Balls that are going to be...
That's it.
And there's another niche interaction here going on. If the Shadow Ball drops the special defense on the Sneasler and activates the White Herb, it's going to go first instead of the Gengar.
No, I think the White Herb was actually procced earlier on in the game prior to the switch out because of the Incineroar that came onto the field.
Yeah, right.
But regardless, like we said, it is going to have to come down to the Diaclaws and the interaction of it. But we saw close combat actually being the move of choice there, not wanting the special defense to be dropped. But Davide took advantage, went for the Perish Song. He is the faster Pokemon.
Yeah, it's like trying to stop the Disable from actually ruining the Diaclaw option, because if you go for the Diaclaw first and the Disable comes out, you've got no way to hit that Gengar whatsoever. But most importantly, right, if the Perish Song, if both Pokemon stay on the field until the end of Perish Song, the Sneasler is going to faint probably after the Gengar.
Exactly. That's what we saw with the interaction, right? And that's why Davide is focused on saying, you know what? Perish may be my way out here in order to avoid an awkward scenario, because even if the Unburden hasn't been procced, it just seems like the training of this Mega Gengar is that of being slower than the Sneasler. Second time confirmed there.
Yeah. So is the...
hello. Okay.
All right. One turn, though. This Diaclaw probably has to crit.
It does.
If it's going to have a hope and a prayer of being able to knock out this Gengar. And the fact that the Gengar is slower than the Sneasler is so crucial to how this end game operates.
Unless there's a protect with the wake up, it doesn't seem to be the case. Dire Claw, not enough. And I don't even think with that range of damage, it would have been enough, probably resulting around 10 to 11 hit points. And what a turn of events. Davide winning through the end game perish. Game 1 win. Wow.
That's a masterclass. That's a masterclass in Perish. Like, when to go for it, when not to. Really tempting when you're playing a team like that to think, Perish Song is my strategy. Therefore, I must get Perish Song up at all costs at the start of the game. But no, not at all costs. You have to pick and choose your moments. I want to call out there, actually, the fact that the Gengar, Mega Gengar, is so slow in comparison to the Sneasler is also how it was taking... excuse me, so little damage from the Dire Claw coming out from the Sneasler. You must know yourself, Costa, of being an aficionado of Mega Gengar, that you can train it to be really bulky in a way that regular Gengar isn't.
No, exactly. And that's the beauty of being able to always have the accompanying, let's say, Incineroar to further bolster the pseudo bulk that this Pokemon normally isn't trained for. It's usually fast and powerful, but not when it comes to the variety of modes here. So going into Game 2, it feels like there shouldn't be a change-up, but could that be the case with Bruno on the hyper-offensive?
Oh, well, I mean, that's the thing that Bruno has to make the decision on. You think the impact of maybe even targeting into the Gengar on turn 1 instead of targeting into the Tinkaton, right?
Yes.
How that would change that end game. We'll have to see how these trainers are adapting for Game 2.
Here we go. Leads with the Incineroar and the Gengar over on Davide's side versus the Sneasler and the Kingambit. So, once again, we've got Defiant activated. +1 Kingambit dealing so much damage. White Herb also now proccing, giving Sneasler the Unburden boost. But that's a smart way of being able to at least burn it for the future turns from Davide's side.
Now, I can't count the amount of times I've watched an Italian player bring Incineroar in the lead, threaten Fake Out, and then just switch it out.
Yes. And I think there's good reason for that too.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Gengar going for a Protect here, and a switch out into maybe the Tinkaton for Davide, just trying to reposition their Pokemon, because that Kingambit with a bit of Fake Out support is definitely going to be able to knock out the Gengar this turn. With a Protect, you open up the opportunity for Disable. There it is, Incineroar leaving the field.
In favor of the Sinister now. Maybe for a subsequent redirection potential in the future turns, willing to be able to essentially control the Kingambit. And there's no Tinkaton at the moment, so Protect makes sense. You want that lasting staying power. Fake Out trying to catch out the Incineroar, but Kingambit going for Swords Dance yet again. Now at +3, clearly both of our trainers here understanding the lines, and Bruno, in all appreciation, going for the gutsy moves where he has to.
Well, you just need to make sure that your damage output is enough to break through all of these Pokemon. And given that Davide's Pokemon are trained so defensively, it does give rise to the need to just go for those Sword Stances on turn 1 and take advantage of those more passive turns where the Perish Song is getting set up.
Yeah, and that's why we see the Sinister essentially being the sacrifice in this interaction. There was a Cassie Berry, for example, but like that doesn't factor in at all with this interaction of the Dire Claw actually dealing a lot more damage than I expected, Ben. And then the Kingambit, of course, picking up the KO. This allows the free switching of either the Incineroar or potentially the Tinkaton, maybe Como-O being opted out in this game too.
I think it would be a wise adaptation as well, because the Floette being in the back in Game 1, even though it doesn't look that good into the matchup, it's respecting the Como-O. And so Davide probably respecting the Floette a little bit more than maybe he wanted to in Game 1. But now the Fake Out coming back onto the field, another Intimidate, drop onto the Sneasler, but this Kingambit at +4 now is definitely going to put some holes in whatever it goes for a Cowtail Cleave in. I think the key factor here, the Perish Song is up, of course, is whether or not the Sneasler can get a little bit cheeky with the Dire Claw and allow for a little bit of shenanigans on that Gengar.
Yeah, and because the White-Herd had already been essentially used up prior turn, close combat, not quite enough to pick up the KO onto the Incineroar, but let's take a note there. The Kingambit was left alone. No fake out into it. There was a Sucker Punch attempt, obviously being essentially ignored because of the disable there. Maybe trying to position a point where the Sneasler is just locked in and cannot touch the Tinkaton that comes in because close combat, no longer online. Dire Claw, it's actually not able to hit the Tinkaton due to the steel typing.
Yeah, so like, so now the Sneasler is locked into just trying to get the status effects onto the Gengar if Davide allows it to happen with the Perish counter 2. This turn is a nice, easy protect turn if you want to go for it. There's an Encore disable ability. There's just a straight up Encore ability to go that you could go for into the Sneasler if you wanted to. So many options that Davide has, but in this case, it's just Pokemon playing defensively. And then, just like in Game 1, there's the ability for Davide to swap out the Gengar and form an endgame on the last turn of this Perish.
But you do need to be cautious on the timing, and that is why we see the final turn of Perish is upon us. Gengar is ever so free to switch out right now. Close combat had been disabled, so there's no way outside of Dire Claw for the Sneasler to be able to threaten a KO onto the Incineroar that has to come into the Gengar slot.
And I think this is the turn where, again, we get the option for the Kingambit and the Sneasler to just try to get some damage down onto that Incineroar that we know is likely waiting in the wings. It's already at low HP.
Yep.
So the Encore coming in here, that's going to lock the Kingambit into Sucker Punch. The Sucker Punch is going to fail because there was no offensive options opted for. Oh, the Protect, of course. It doesn't really matter what it is. Not doing any damage is the point in this situation. Now the Sneasler and the Kingambit faint. But I feel like with the Tinkaton fainting as well at the end of this turn, oh no, it was after, it came in after, didn't it? Yeah. I was going to say that Bruno feels like they're in a little bit of a better spot to come on the offensive on this turn. And actually, I still think that's true, right? Because the focus actually is still intact on the Basculegion. And as long as Bruno can maintain that, the Basculegion is going to cause Davide so many problems.
And that's why Bruno's focus has been try to get the big damage hitters on the field at the same time to threaten and break down the foundational legs of this core system. Perish Son, Fake Out, Switch Out, etc. Mega Floette going for the Mega Evolution, of course, the Eternal Floette, apologies. But now you really need to focus down on what are the correct moves to lock in. Incineroar, I could easily see it being essentially a sacrifice to bring that Mega Gengar in at the right time, the subsequent turn, and that seems to be the case.
Yeah, Incineroar going down here to the Dazzling Gleam. Wouldn't be surprised to have seen a Last Respects coming out into the Tinkaton trying to take that Pokemon out. So it's only Mega Gengar that is being stared down into. And now we get to a really interesting part of the game, right? Where the Gengar comes in, there's no Perish on the board. Basculegion can't be faked out. It can be encored, but I'm not sure you want to encore that into Last Respects unless you're also disabling it on the same turn. And the question then becomes, like, can the Floette do enough damage to make that end game a little bit more palatable, maybe in combination with an Aqua Jet?
I feel like this is quite tough because all of the spotlight is on Basculegion. Surely Bruno's going to go for the defensive protect here, acknowledging that because Floette, it's going up against two Pokemon that it needs to deal damage to that are resisting its Fairy-type moves. The Steel typing on Tinkaton and the Poison one on Mega Gengar. There's not much that it can do. It's being threatened by a Gigaton Hammer. So I'm curious to see the speed interactions of this Tinkaton versus the Floette.
Ooh.
No Protect. Shadow Ball bringing the Basculegion down to 1 HP. Focus Sash procs.
No Aqua Jet, no Encore disable at all. And is it going to be a Gigaton Hammer that's going to follow up into the Basculegion?
It is!
Knock it out.
And there it goes, Basculegion, the last Pokemon, in order to try to force a Game 3 in Bruno's favor, seems to have been failed. Dazzling Gleam will be doing pitiful damage, and Davide has more than lock this up right now. Too much damage. Floette on its lonesome soul. Eternally now gonna have to face down its two biggest threats.
Yeah, it's like we've already seen that Tinkerton is faster than the Floette, so maybe not this turn because Kickers Hammer can't be used 2 turns in a row, but Dazzling Gleam being disabled, Encore locking in that Floette to the Dazzling Gleam. The struggle is real in this situation, and Davide is taking our win.